Oh, cool.
All right, we're live. Welcome to Own Your Gifts, Season 2, Episode 4. Unfortunately, my partner in crime isn't here, so I will be imperfectly running today's show. We have a great guest. She's here. Her name is Jen Russman, and I want to read her bio really quick. First off, I want to welcome anybody who's listening. Welcome. Please feel free to engage with us in any way that you feel comfortable, and hopefully we'll add some value today. Let's see here. Jen Russman is a self-healing advocate, trauma guide, and energy healer who believes pain is power when given purpose. Her work as a self-healing practitioner is more than just a story of hope. It's a story of triumph as she herself has healed from childhood trauma, addiction, and autoimmune disease. Her work centers on the energetics of self-healing with a focus on the link between stored trauma in the body and chronic illness. Jen hosts Genergy Vibes, a weekly live online TV show dedicated to leading people home to their innate power to heal. She's an award-winning executive contributor for Brains magazine, where she shares about the energetics of self-healing and the trauma of dis-ease connection. All right, Jen. So we normally like to start off our shows with sharing something that we've done well today and something that we could possibly do better tomorrow. Would you like to start us out?
I would love to, Joe. Thank you so much for having me here with you tonight. I have thoroughly enjoyed our private conversations, and I'm looking forward to continuing the power of our conversations here on your show. For me today, what I've done well is I have really tuned into my body, and I have given my body the self-care that it needs. I've gone at the pace that my body has needed me to go today, and that's really important for me as somebody who is differently able to not ignore what I'm feeling in my body. And that's really what all the energetics of healing is about. What I've not done so well today, I would have to say the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm having a lot of runaway thoughts around my son, who is not doing what I think he should be doing. And he's kind of, acting out and disrespecting our rules. So I've been kind of on a runaway train with my thoughts, going to the worst case scenarios and getting angry and having arguments in my head with him, and he's not even here. So I need to kind of, pull the reins in on those runaway thoughts, and I know what to do for it. So hopefully tomorrow I can wake up and be a little bit better with that.
I'm kind of smiling and laughing because it's just like the daily battle of
Yep.
Managing our thoughts, our mental and emotional hygiene, staying in our own lane, staying in the present moment. I have quite a bit of, I've gone through the last week in particular, a situation where a relationship that I had to sever. And yeah, I'm having past conversations in my head. I'm having future conversations in my head, and it's life is happening in the moment. So it's a constant of like getting off track, pulling, righting the ship, getting off track, righting the ship. So I could definitely relate to that. Which leads me to what I've done well today. What I've done well today, I've done a lot of things well, which is really important, and I'll be revisiting all that tonight when I go to sleep, which is where I write things that I did well and things that I'm grateful for. But in particular, I'm kind of in really deep with this writing that I'm doing in the morning, and we discussed this, Jen, last time we spoke, and it's something called the Artist's Way, and part of the program is you write 3 pages in the morning stream of consciousness every day. So I'm on week 5, day 4, and I haven't missed a day. And I could tell you that it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster. It's brought up some tough emotions for me, and Most mornings when I get up, I don't want to do it, but I've done it consistently, which means I'm committed. And so I'm proud of myself for doing that. Anytime I do what I say I'm going to do to myself, I'm living in integrity. When I'm living in integrity, usually my body rewards me. If I'm living outside of integrity, meaning if I'm not doing what I committed to do to myself, my body usually revolts in some way. And that might look like me flying off the handle, or that might look like me getting physical pain that manifests itself in all different types of ways. But that's usually a good sign for me is when my body shuts down, or like I'm feeling pain in areas where I haven't hurt myself, then that usually means that somewhere in my life I need to take a closer look because I'm not living in integrity. And what I could do better, it's again related to the relationship. It's when something painful happens emotionally, I have a tendency of shutting all the emotions down. And it's basically like a defense mechanism that I'm aware of. I never was aware of it. It's something I carried for a long time, and I believe that it served me for a long time, but it certainly no longer serves me. But what happens is I start creating boxes and systems, and I'm not in the flow of life. And I'm not, we're going to talk a lot about energy because that's, a big part of what you do. And myself as well, is I'm not energetically, there's nobody coming within my blocks, so that means no true connection, no intimacy, no joy. Yes, I may be protected by some sort of toxic emotion that I have an irrational fear that if I emote it, if I feel it and let it move through like it's supposed to do, that it's going to somehow sink me into some sort of dark hole that I'm not going to be able to climb my way out of, even though I have overwhelming evidence, especially my years in recovery, that when I walk into these painful places, I come out the other side, and I always come out higher than when I went in. So it's like you bounce, you go a little low, but when you bounce higher. So a lot of times you have to go down to go back up. So I'm going to try to be more conscious tomorrow to let my guards down and not be scared to feel those emotions.
Yeah, and you're reminding me of what's coming through for me is just trust the process. Trusting the process. And I want to give a shout out to Miss Raquel. She's here. And we got Kenneth joining us, Savor the Flavor. Thanks, guys, for hopping on.
Yes. Kenneth is always supporting. He's all over the place.
He's all over the place. I don't know how he does it.
I don't know how he does it either. He's got many hands. There's probably some Kenneth clones out there. But we appreciate you, Kenneth. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your support, and we love having you.
Absolutely.
And Raquel,
Jimmy Jam.
Thank you for joining us. Looks like we got a Gen fan here. James, Jimmy Jam.
Welcome. Jam, Raquel, my girl.
All right. These are all your peeps. Cool.
Nice.
So Jenny, tell us a little more about your journey through adversity, through traumatic times, through addiction, and how once you came out the other side, these are now gifts that you have to not only heal yourself but to help others heal as well. So if you're open to it, I'd like to hear a little bit about your journey and how you wound up being the coach that you are today.
Absolutely. I'm a pretty open book, Joe. So I'm really happy to be here to share my story, because again, I'm all about turning our pain into power by giving it purpose. And it's so interesting to me because I can feel it in my body. My chest tightens when you say the word adversity and everything that I've been through. And, July is my sobriety anniversary month. It's 27 years on July 5th that I took my last drink. And that began my my real healing and personal development journey of doing the inner work, right? But I sit here today, and when you bring it back up, I could feel the tightness in my chest, because it's literally like, it feels like a lifetime ago that only happened yesterday sometimes, right? So sometimes you're sitting here and it's like, yeah, wow, like that girl that I was all those years ago, dying inside, feeling so alone, feeling hopeless and helpless. And so my journey begins with trauma in my childhood. I always start there, because being an open book and being honest, bringing the real, is everything in my inner work has always come back to the core, which was the child abuse that started at age 3, from age 3 to age 10. And, I had actually told what was happening to me, and I wasn't protected. So that was like a double, like I was re-traumatized. And so for me, I internalized that experience early on as 2 things. One, that I don't matter, I don't count, I'm not enough, I'm not heard, I'm not seen. And 2 is that, I just lost my train of thought. That being visible is not safe. So those are 2 huge beliefs that my body carried with me moving forward. And so when I found alcohol, that was it for me. And so the emotional suppression and the secrecy of the abuse led to addiction, which just compounded the emotional suppression, right? And there was a lot of self-harm during those years that I was using. And luckily for me, my bottom with addiction came fast. I had like a fast bottom and a slow recovery. And I'm grateful for that, because I've seen it the other way around. I've been around a long time in recovery, and I've seen it where people stay out there for a very long time. And I've seen people pop off, thinking they got it all together, and then they go back out like really quick in recovery. So very, very grateful that my bottom was fast and my recovery was slow. So I got sober at the tail end of my 24th year. So I was young. And about 4 years into my sobriety, age 29, the rug was pulled out from under me. And I woke up one day with all these whacked out symptoms. And it turned out I was diagnosed ultimately with multiple sclerosis, at which point I didn't know any better. I listened to what my medical team told me. I did what they told me to do. And I proceeded to live very sick and very disabled and homebound in bed or on the couch probably 75-80% of the time. I've been through losing my vision. I've been paralyzed. I've been where I can't self-care. My mom had to move in, and I couldn't go to the bathroom or take a shower without somebody's help. So very, very humbling. And looking back on this experience, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. I didn't know all this then, obviously, right? This is all in hindsight and life experience. But looking back, I can see now very clearly that at the age of 29, I didn't just wake up one day and randomly my body go haywire and I got sick overnight. That's not what happened. It took years of stored trauma. Trauma becomes stored in the body, is cellular memory. It gets stored as these trapped emotions and energetic attachments and the emotional suppression. And all of that built up in my body. And then when you add in the emotional suppression and then the addiction and trying to push things down and stuff it all, and all the self-harm that went along with that. When I woke up at 29, it wasn't random. It was literally my body's cry for help, that something's wrong. And I need your attention. I need your help. And so unfortunately it took me 7 years of suffering before I woke up one day and had a divine intervention, and that all changed. Thank God. So that's the picture of adversity that I lived from the age of 3 until I was 36.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that with us. I think when we share our pain, I think at the very least it's halved. Not to mention that there's somebody out there who probably feels unique and all alone and doesn't know that, there are, fellow humans, brothers and sisters, who have gone through something similar, have come out the other side and can help take your hand and show you the way. I thought it was what I was thinking about when you were talking about, the terrible trauma as a child, which obviously no child should have to go through, that you didn't feel safe, and that it's that you didn't feel, that you felt less than, and you didn't feel enough, and you felt like being seen was a huge risk, and and to me that seems like a really obvious response to something like that. And the reason why I bring this up, I think it's probably a very normal response to somebody who's been a victim and been traumatized, especially during such formative years. But the point that I was trying to make is I identify with those feelings 1,000%. However, I didn't have any trauma. Like, I didn't have any trauma. I didn't have any abuse. I always felt safe in my home, but I always felt less than. I always felt like I wasn't enough. I always felt like it was easier to hide than to be seen. I went to like dramatic lengths to ensure that I stayed off the radar. Which, so you mentioned trauma stored in our cells, energetic trauma stored in our cells. And you're the expert on this. I do know a little bit about it. And I am doing some work in this area. But what that leads me to believe is that I came into this world with that energetic trauma. It wasn't a response to something that happened to me in childhood. I entered the world that way. Like, and which is fascinating to me. And it's also, I wonder when, whether it, as somebody who's an energy healer like yourself, is the approach different to somebody who possibly brought this trauma in from a past life, as opposed to somebody who has been gone through trauma in this lifetime and is, having a trauma response to the events that had caused the trauma? Is the process the same? Can you tell me a little bit about the process? Let's just say, I'm, you and I start to work together, and it's become abundantly obvious that I have some trauma stored in my cells, even though I'm not necessarily aware of where it came from. And I don't think that it's a situation where there's that I've pushed it so deep, or there's like a level of denial. I'm also a person in recovery, who's done a lot of deep work, both in recovery and other types of modalities. I would imagine that if there was something that I'm just simply I'm not aware of at all, it would have surfaced. What's your process for somebody like me, as opposed to like somebody yeah, somebody like me?
Oh, Joe.
This is what you do. You give me my money back, and you go find yourself a more manageable client. Because
You're
I'll
going to
run
need
you
three of
ragged.
me, my friend.
Yeah, I got a couple of those. That's okay.
I'm teasing. I love this question because there are all sorts of answers to this question. There's something called ancestral, right? Where we in our DNA, in our lineage, ancestral trauma and pain is passed down to us. So there's ancestral healing that you can see as somebody who specializes in energy work around ancestral healing. I don't specialize that in specifically. However, in the work that I do deal with, I can locate any inherited emotions, like trapped emotions. So like, let's say I've had clients that I've gone back like 21 generations back to the woman, the great grandmother times 20 times, right? Who experienced something painful and traumatic, and these emotions became trapped in her. And when she had children, it got passed on to her daughter, who passed on to her, and it's like it's like a cycle. So then by the time you get here, now you've had this, if whether it's one generation or 21, it doesn't matter. And that's part of the work I do, that I can locate those and I can release them. And when I do release them, they not only, it's like a bonus, because not only does it get released out of you instantly and permanently, but it's also released out of every single soul and spirit that was affected by it, whether they're in this lifetime or they've passed on and they're on the other side. So any cousins, any aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, children, like everybody gets released from it. So I do experience that and I see it, and it's like super powerful, because I feel the presence. Like when I do this part of this work I do, I feel the presence. I feel, and I'm connected to my client. So the souls that are gathering are not for me, they're for my client, but I'm feeling it because I'm connected to their energy. And it's incredible. And I've cried. I mean, it's intense. It's intense. And then the release that happens for my clients is it's beautiful. So you can absolutely come into this lifetime with energetic traps, if you will, trapped energies from ancestral, from that in your DNA, inherited. And I've also seen and removed and released energetic traps that became trapped when they were in the womb, the third trimester of their mother's womb, which is fascinating.
Yeah, this is all mind-blowing to me.
But
I know that this type of work exists. I've seen healers, and I'm currently seeing an acupuncturist who is working with, and what he does, which is a little different, with releasing stored up pain and emotions and trauma, in my cells and are stored in my organs, and I don't necessarily have to understand it to commit to it and experiment with it and to stay open. And I could tell you that it's working. I know that it's working because I'm going through pain. And when I go through pain, I come out the other side. Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, it's shaking stuff up. And it's interesting because it's not, and I think this is more proof to me, in my intellectual mind, more proof that it's something that I brought here, or that I had inherited, or that I had picked up, because the emotions are coming up and out, but they're not tied to specific thoughts or ideas or beliefs or words or anything like that. They're strictly the raw emotion. Typically when I think of something painful that I've gone through in this lifetime that is in my memory, I can tie all these other senses to it, right? And so it's like, to me, like, that's like, oh, that's from that. Like, and I don't know, man. I just think it's super fascinating. And so is the work that you do largely intuitive, or is there I'm sure it's not a one size fits all model, and I'm sure there's a great deal of intuitiveness, and there's a true art form to what you do. But is there a process that you were taught or that was passed on to you, that steps? Like I kind of, I have like a very like, linear brain. It's like, okay, so like, take an action, get a result. Like what are the steps? Like what's the recipe? What's the blueprint? There might not always be one. I've found that in my life, because I need a blueprint, you know, a lot of times I'm operating within, I'm following these blueprints, I'm following these directions. I've created these systems that work for me to help me grow and contribute beyond myself. And I'm operating within the systems, but then like, and we've talked about this before, my head's always down. I'm always inside the system. I'm inside the box. I'm following the blueprint, and it closes me off to higher forces, doors that it might be opening, other solutions that might present themselves. It's kind of like, I think it's a way, I think it's a way that I control things. At the same time, it's worked for me. You know, I've been, you know, completely, I've had many bottoms in my life, you know, but after living 2 decades in a different, it works for me. However, I need to peel it back. You know, I need to peel it back and just look up and use my periphery more. You know, like I'm a firm believer that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And like I was saying, is like, there's been time where I've been completely paralyzed, like in bed, 20 hours a day, obsessing about using drugs, obsessing about suicide, and seeing no way out, like literally no way out. And in order for me to crawl out of spaces like that, I had to take little tiny steps and do them consistently over and over and over again. And I had to create systems to plug me into higher forces. I had to use tools to plug me into the higher forces for help.
Dude, that's a mad skill. That is a mad freaking skill.
I believe it is, but like you were saying, you asked me, is it still working for you? Yes, it's working for me, but you know, and you know, I realized that
because you're growing.
Creativity doesn't exist in those spaces.
No.
You know, universal gifts, you know, present moment gifts. If I'm not, if my head's down and I'm grinding, I'm blowing by shit. You know what I mean?
You're missing what's meant for you. And so I want to say, like, you know, you use the word linear. The thing about healing is there's nothing linear about healing. Nothing about healing is linear. It's all cyclical. It's an ebb and a flow. It's a process of expansion and contraction. We expand and then we contract. But what comes after the contraction? More expansion, right? So it's this ebb and flow, this in and out, this up and down. Like there's no point A to point B when it comes to healing, straight line. And it's very similar with life and creativity, like things that you've mentioned. And so I think it's really important I love your level of self-awareness around it. And that, you know, as we grow spiritually and as we develop and as we enter new levels of expansion for ourselves, we start to tap into and recognize when we can get out of our mind and drop down into our body, that's where the answers are. And we can really begin to listen and recognize that, you know what, this mad skill I used, this freaking superpower I've had, it's not working for me anymore. So what do I start? Like the first step is to get curious about it, and getting curious without judgment towards yourself, without judgment towards the tool and the mad skill that you've been using, without judgment of what may be possible for you on the other side. And it doesn't always mean that we have to throw out and get rid of what used to serve us so well. Maybe it's not serving us as well anymore, but it doesn't mean that we have to kick it to the curb. It just means that, like you said, we need to just open ourselves up and we need to start getting curious. Well, what does this mean? Well, what can this look like and feel like for me moving forward? What if I were to tweak it this way? Or what if I was to ABC, you know, whatever it might be, fill in the blank for you. So yeah, it's really, you know, one of the first steps to healing and to recognizing and self-awareness is just getting curious And this is something I coach on, but getting curious without the judgment, because too often when we're in that judgment, there's no room. There's no room for connection to higher self, connection to higher source, connection to what wants to come through for us. And so you asked me what the recipe, if you will, the blueprint. There is a recipe. There is a blueprint.
Could you send that in the mail to me, by the way? Could you send me the blueprint
send it to you in the mail?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right
absolutely. Well, you're going to have a recording of this. So even if you miss some of it today, you can go back and watch this.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, the recipe is, the thing about me is like, and I laugh because I'm not one to follow instructions. Like if I buy something that needs to be put together and it comes with a little set of instructions and all the little screws are numbered or lettered or whatever, or if I'm going to cook in the kitchen, I don't have recipe books. I don't go and do a quarter teaspoon of this and a quarter cup of that. I just kind of make it up as I go along, if you will. Some of it gets me into trouble because I get, you know what I mean, trying to put stuff together. But so, and that's just how I operate. I'm very, very much an intuitive. I'm an empath. And so I'm trained, I'm certified, but I bring my intuitive gifts and I bring my empathic abilities to my sacred containers with my clients. And so I'm able to connect with them in a way that's very rich and very authentic and very, can be very intense at times, and not in a bad way, but just in a beautiful way. And so I use a certain modality. I have several. I'm certified in different things, but the heartbeat of what I do is the emotion code, and I'm trained in that. And I self-taught, and I went and got certified. And then when the pandemic hit, I sat back and I said, when things started to shut down, I said, how can I use this time? How can I use this time? And the other question was, how can I still serve? Because I was used to, all these years in recovery, serve, give back. I could never give back to AA what it's given me, right? I'll never match that. So I was always sponsoring and, service, you know what I'm talking about, service, right? So when everything shut down, I was like, oh God, how can I still serve? And so what ended up happening for me was I discovered this. I had a soul's recognition when the energy worker did this work on me. And it was so intense. And I just knew my soul was like, this is what I'm meant to do. And so I've taken it to different levels, though, because of my own intuitive and empathic gifts and my own deep rooted experiences with trauma. So I use the emotion code, and I use it to go in deep with the trauma. And what that looks like is it's all remote, because energy, this is what blows people's minds the most, is energy has no boundaries. So you can be on the other side of the world in a different time zone, and I can connect to you energetically. I can connect to your energy. I use muscle testing, which is a science-based modality tool, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you're familiar with muscle testing, but I incorporate muscle testing to have a conversation.
Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Muscle testing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have a basic understanding of it. I just wouldn't want to hear it coming from you. And
yeah.
I think
So,
it would be
I'm going to keep it simple for you and the viewers, but
that dummy version.
Testing. Yeah, no. It's just, we don't, we're time constrained here, but muscle testing is really about, it's like I've said, that all the answers lie with the body, right? The body knows, the body remembers. Let the body talk to you. Let the body answer your questions. The body will never lie to you. So you can hold, I'll give you an example. You can hold your arm out, and let's say this was a carrot, right? It's not, but let's pretend it's a carrot. And I could hold it out, and then I could push on my arm. If my arm gives away and drops and goes weak, and it's not a hard push, it's just a little pressure. And if it goes right down, that food is not my body's, it's not an energetic match for my body. My body was like, no, we don't want that. Well, a carrot it would, but if it was something else that was not good for my body, it would say no. So that's one form of muscle testing. I'm able to, so it's basically the body, the strength of your body. So I use my hands and my fingers. So I can, like, if I said right now, my name is Jen, can you see my fingers?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Jen. I push, it doesn't move, right? My name is Joe. It won't hold. My name is Joe.
Oh, so
Joe.
you actually feel like a magnetic force. It's like putting positive
No,
against positive. Is it that
I
strong?
mean, with your muscle strength, if you want to, yeah, I mean, because everything's
That's
energy, right?
trippy.
So, you can do it this way where your fingers will break away. You can stand, you can do that. You can probably, it's really cool. You can stand and start by saying, my name is Joe, and you will stay up straight. But then if you were to stand there, you could do this after the show and you say, my name is Jen, you're going to sway backwards or forwards, or I think it's backwards, but if you sway forwards, it's true. If you sway back, it's not true. So so when I'm connected to you and your energy, I'm able to have a conversation literally with your subconscious, and our subconscious is a vat of infinite information.
Don't tell
Going back
anybody
to
what my subconscious is saying right now. Whatever you do,
well, I'm not connected to you,
do
so I
not
can't.
broadcast it live because the police will be at
I
my
can't
house.
because I'm not connected to you.
I'm only kidding. Yeah. Okay. So I have had muscle testing. My acupuncture did it with me, and he also he tested all my supplements that way. He had me hold them, and he also did the breaking thing. And
breaking away.
I didn't ask. I'm just like, I just intuitively know that this person came into my life for the reason, and I'm just like, let's do it, dude. So it's like I haven't really been asking much questions. I was just like, okay. So I've had a little bit of experience with it, which is really cool, and I would love to learn more about it.
Yeah, and one of the things I love most about this modality that I use, especially because I work with people with severe trauma, and it's not just trauma. I work with people with all different things, but those with severe trauma, oftentimes they don't have memories, right? Like I don't have a lot of memories. Some people are like, I think something happened, but I don't know what. Right. And some people are like, I know what happened. I don't want to go there. Like they don't want, like, reliving it, like through talk therapy, like it has its place. But after a while, it's like you're just re-traumatizing yourself, and you're, over and over by just keep talking about it. Like, so in the work that I do, what I love about it is that oftentimes they don't even need to know what the event was. Like I can locate what the emotional trap is. I can discern what age it became trapped in your body. And then your body will tell me if we need to know more in order to release it. And oftentimes the body's like, nope, don't need to know more. Because you know what? The body's like, I'm done with this. You're here. Let's do this. Let's get it out. And then I'm able to release it. And I love that about it, because with trauma, like you don't have to, it's not about the details. It's not about the story. You don't have to re-traumatize yourself with the details in the story. We just go and we release, and then it's instant, it's permanent. They never return. And this works for everything from, severe deep traumas to divorce, to grief, to loss, to betrayal, you name it, it can work. And it's amazing. It's powerful, powerful.
I would imagine the person that you're working with needs to have a certain level of belief that it might work. If you come up against somebody who's extremely resistant, who is a skeptic, do you feel like that's a block in order for you to be able to work with them? Like I just relate it to, you don't.
I don't. And I mean, I always say, like, to be open, but being open doesn't necessarily mean that you believe, right? Just be open. My son is 18, skeptic. And I'm showing him testimony after testimonial after testimonial of my clients. And he's like, well, I can't really dispute that. He goes, but because he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand it. And he doesn't understand, like, this is quantum physics. This is science-based stuff. It's not woo-woo. Energy is science. And he's a skeptic. And I've been doing this for a while, and he makes fun of me, and he just doesn't believe it. He's like, I'm proud of you, but I just don't believe in I don't believe it. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to believe it. And he came to me a couple months ago and he asked me to do some energy work on him. And he's not really a believer. And he sat here and I did some releasing on him, and he felt things. He was like, whoa. And he's like, I said, what'd you feel? And he would describe it. And so he felt some stuff. And he's like, he can't explain it. So he's been my biggest skeptic that's been in my circle, and he actually felt the releasing and he felt better after. So
that's beautiful. And
it shows me it shows me, and I'm grateful because, I want to clear him,
yeah,
because he's my boy.
Really...
So, yeah.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you. So,
yeah.
Is there anything that you're working on that you're super excited about that you'd like to share with myself and our audience? Any new projects, any new involvement with anything that you'd like to talk about? Because we'd like to hear about it.
I have a couple things I'm working on. I mean, I'm still working on, every week I have my weekly online TV show, Genergy Vibes, which is all about our innate power to heal, because that's what I was able to do, right? That I didn't really get to that part of my story, but that day I woke up and had my divine intervention, and I made the power of decision, that I wasn't going to live sick anymore. And I went on to heal. So I went from 7 years of devastation to healing, running a 5K, doing Zumba, raising my family, living an active life, differently abled, but living an active life. And so I have a few things, and actually something exciting came through for me today. And this is the beauty of making connections and collaborating and having conversations with people, right? I met this amazing woman today. We had a beautiful conversation. She invited me to come into her group of entrepreneurs and business people and creatives and teach on a topic for an hour. And I was like, wonderful. And I in that moment, I had this divine download. It's already on paper. I'm putting together a training on the energetics of leadership, which I'm like, this is going to be like amazeballs, like the energetics of leadership. And that's exciting because my whole practice is all on the energetics of self-healing, right? You can apply the energetics really to anything. So that's exciting. And the other exciting thing I'm involved in, which I can't talk enough about, and you're going to be fascinated with this, is you're actually coming on to our show. We have our live stream show, Gut Check, Mind Check. And myself, Krista Samimi, and Jimmy Jam, who's on with us tonight, have come together to produce this live stream show. It's on Jimmy Jam's LinkedIn, so make sure to follow him so you get notified if you're interested in checking it out. And it's all about the gut-brain axis and how that impacts our mental health, as well as things like chronic illness and trauma. And it's all connected. Everything starts in our gut and ends in our gut. So we're out there educating and inspiring and bringing on people who have, amazing stories of healing and overcoming adversity with their health by treating their gut health. So, and this is specific to the mental wellness revolution that we're a part of, because mental health is part of my story, right? It's part of my life experience. The system for mental health is broken. The model of treatment is broken. And we are sitting on a holistic solution for mental health that treats the gut, because they're out there handing out medications like candy, treating the brain for depression and anxiety and stress, when they're missing the boat, because the things that affect the anxiety and the depression and the stress resiliency, they're not born, and they're not produced in the brain. They're produced in the gut. And so the gut produces these neurotransmitters in the gut. 70% of our immune system's in the gut. And if our gut's whack, our immune system can't function optimally. our gut bacteria cannot produce the dopamine and the serotonin and the neurotransmitters that it needs to send up through the vagus nerve, the communication highway to the brain. And if that's all messed up, our brains are not receiving what they need. So it's like a Band-Aid, right? So we're really excited about this project because this is what I've never seen before. It's a holistic approach that is completely 150% science backed. And it's incredible. And I can't talk enough about the gut brain axis at this point. And especially the link between how trauma impacts our gut health, blowing my mind. Blowing my mind. When you have a traumatic event, it wipes out your gut biome, and it causes like leaky gut. Like your lining just goes, and then I don't know if you know leaky gut, but leaky gut is horrible.
I haven't experienced it, but I'm well aware of the brain gut connection, and that all health starts in our gut, and it's a hard sell. You know what I mean? It's like I've studied it to the point where I believe it, and you could read the research and you could see the research, and there's more and more research coming out every single day, and this is stuff that that people knew thousands and thousands of years ago, but just couldn't prove it or necessarily
Eastern medicine.
So that's fascinating to me, and I love that message. I'm really grateful to be able to be a part and to be able to be a guest on the show. I'm excited for that.
So we'll be talking about that when you come on. I mean, it's super powerful. And I know, the holistic protocol that I'm on has completely changed my life. And, one of the biggest pieces for me is all of those years so sick with the MS, there was a lot of cognitive damage in my brain. So processing information, learning new information, taking in multiple sensory things at once, very overwhelming, emotionally overwhelming, meltdowns, anger, frustration, confusion. And I've lived like that for almost 2 decades. And then within very quickly, after the first week I felt it, but being on the protocol that I'm on, it's given me my cognitive functioning back. And I'm much more myself, and I can handle learning. I don't get confused like I used to. I can process information much more smoothly, more calmly. So, it's a game changer for me, because that cognitive damage really impacted my ability to, especially when I went online and decided to start a business, like having to learn all this technology and different things. I was pulling my hair out. I struggled so bad with it. And now it's like, wow,
So you straighten out the environment in your gut, and now your brain is thanking you for it. I have similar experiences with the same, and we'll save it for your show because we are running out of time. I want to thank you so much for. I know it's like.
It goes fast,
we like
doesn't
to
it?
keep them quick. It goes really fast. I could talk with
My
you
TV show's
forever.
an hour, and it goes like a blink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, we're at the last segment already. Last commercial break. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
We got some good people on here.
This is great conversation. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming on, and how we normally wrap up the show is we share a tip, a tool, a strategy, an exercise or hack to plug into the highest force of gratitude, the higher force of gratitude, and this is something that I am extremely passionate about. I'm a big believer that the most powerful things in the world enter through the smallest things. And me personally, who's gone through, I've also had a slow and painful recovery, and I had hit other bottoms in recovery, being removed from alcohol and drugs, and also working a consistent program of recovery, daily, consistently, and working with others. I hit another, bottom in my life. And what the tool that it was the grenade that I could throw at my self-pity and my depression and my fear and my inability to jump into the stream of life and me being unable to see light at the end of the tunnel was two very simple things. And we touched on those things, one of those things when we started it, and that's me paying really close attention to what I've done well on a daily basis and what I'm grateful for, especially the small, seemingly insignificant things that I expect and I take for granted. And when I began doing that, it was days and I had a massive shift. Like all of us, it's not like it's been years and years and years of consistency and picking up new tools and experimenting on myself with different things. But that's been the one thing that's been steadfast and that made an impact on my life so fast. And it's something that takes 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes. It takes me 5 minutes in the morning, and it takes me 5 minutes at night, and it's my number one spiritual tool. And for me, I look at spirituality as, you won't find this a surprise, but as more like a methodical and mechanical thing. And so I believe that all spiritual work is about perspective shifting. And this is the quickest way I know how to shift my perspective, is practicing gratitude. And so we like to share something that we use to something simple and quick and effective that somebody can walk away from this show and begin implementing in their life and see a change right away. Do you have a gratitude practice you like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I got a bunch, but what's coming through for me is, I call it the power in the pause. There's so much power in the pause. Power in the pause. And what I mean by that is when we have moments where life happens, unexpected. I'll give you a recent example. We just had almost I think I talked to you about this, a near electrical fire in our home, which resulted in thousands of dollars of work needing to be done. And that money, can spin you out, right? So you're off like, oh, and then power in the pause and like coming back and like you said, perspective shifting. And so like stopping when you recognize that you're spiraling out, stop. And you can breathe. You can do 3 breaths. And what you do is you put your tongue up against the roof of your mouth, because that opens up your diaphragm. And then you just breathe in at a slow count of 4 deeply, hold it for a second, and then you breathe it out, slow count of 4. And while you're doing that, you focus on what you're grateful for. And so in that situation, it's like, well, I'm really grateful that my son and I were home and we caught the smoke and the burning smell and unplugged the thing before the house went up in flames. I'm grateful the house didn't burn down. I'm grateful our dogs didn't die in a fire. I'm grateful we had the money to cover the expenses. So, and gratitude and love are the most powerful energies that you can tap into and that you can actually be. But we are love. We are actually love. That's what we are. We come in here as love into this life. And so gratitude, I feel, is the bridge back to that what we really are, which is love.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that with us. Power of the pause. Not my strong suit. Not my strong suit.
I know.
I will say that I've gotten tremendously better. But a lot of times there's not a block between what I'm thinking and what's coming out of my mouth. And so I've gotten myself into trouble.
No filter? Is that what you're saying?
No filter. Yeah.
That's my husband. No filter.
Yeah, no filter. Some people find it endearing, so other people not so much. But
some days it's endearing, other days not so much.
Both of us are really fine examples of how adversity overcome pain, failure, mistakes, obstacles, once overcome, has become our greatest strengths to heal and to grow and to be of service to others. So my tip for today is to get quiet. However it is you do that. I do it with breath. Jenny just gave us a breathing technique that will work. As far as breath work goes or meditation goes, in my opinion, I've studied meditation for many years, and I've had a consistent meditation practice going on 7 years, consistent meaning I don't miss. Yeah. And for many, many, many years, I studied meditation. I studied it. I learned tools, I learned techniques, and guess what? I didn't implement them. So because it got too complicated. Right. And so in my opinion, there's two kinds of meditation, the kind you do and the kind that you don't do. How long? However much you do. That's where I'm at with that. So get centered, however it is you do that, get into your body and breath, prayer, whatever it is, and go back to a time where you had to go through a particular challenge or hardship, or that you're in a tremendous amount of pain, and specifically try to focus on the lesson, the blessing, or the meaning associated with that, and how it made you how it helped you evolve as a human, grow, and put you in a position to be of service to others. And
I love that you talk about the meaning, because like it's really about like our suffering. Like pain is necessary, but suffering is optional. And oftentimes the suffering we allow ourselves to experience and put ourselves through is all based on like the meaning that we assign something. Change your perspective, change the meaning. Change the meaning.
And we get to choose. It's really that easy.
We do.
It's amazing. When I figured that out, I was like, when I figured out that I can actually change my state of mind, that I could decide who I wanted to be, that I could adopt new beliefs, drop old beliefs.
In a second.
And it's, I can't say I do it perfectly.
But we have the power to start over, start a day over, start ourselves over at any given moment. And our power is in our decisions. It's in our choices. So we can decide at any given moment to say, you know what, this day has sucked. It's not going to suck anymore. Just like I woke up that day and said, you know what, these 7 years have sucked. I'm not going to live sick anymore. I have no clue how I'm going to get well. I just know that I am.
Yeah, well, a lot, they say like you need to have a certain level of desire to want to change. In order for that to happen, you need to have awareness. And then there needs to be commitment. And then you need to start taking steps in the direction of that. And the key piece is that means you don't need to know all the steps, and this is a whole nother conversation.
I know. And
we can go on and on, but I got to keep this under an hour, unfortunately. Thank you everybody who has joined us. Jenny, I appreciate you. You did a great job. I'm looking forward to being a guest on your show.
I love our conversations.
Another episode of Own Your Gifts, season 2, episode 4. We're flying along. Next week, Danny will be back. He's actually had to do something that's really cool. I don't know if anybody's aware, he's got a company called Encapsulator. And it's essentially, it's like those old school time capsules where you could there's prompts and you create videos for your future self down the line, 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. It's great. It's a great tool for recovery. It's a great tool for fitness goals. It's a great tool for relationship goals, money goals. And he is a finalist for a large grant in Australia that will help his business reach more people, and we're really excited about that. And so that's why he's not here tonight. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to end the broadcast. Jenny, hang on for a minute, and we'll see you next week. Same place, same bat time, same bat channel, as they say.